Colin making his return. Let's hear what Colin Cowherd has to say.
Let's be totally frank about the Chiefs. And this is a weird thing to say, but part of Kansas City's problem is Patrick Mahomes. In the last 2 seasons, he has not been in Josh Allen's galaxy. Josh has been more accurate. Josh gets to the end zone more. Josh uses his legs to a greater degree, and he's just a better runner. Right now, Mahomes is not Josh Allen last 2 years. And Patrick's become kind of a bad road quarterback this year.
Some truth in that. I mean, I think
The
there's a lot
sacred
going on.
cow has been poked.
So we are going to talk Chiefs more in depth later on the show, giving them roadside assistance from Root. But I would just say it's just fascinating because you see stats out there. Mike Sando had an article and put out a graphic about Kansas City, and you look at last year when they were winning all the games. They were 9-0, or I think it was through 10 games last year when they were 10-0 or 9-1. Versus this year. And this year, like every advanced metric, every simple metric, points for, points allowed, everything's better this year.
Yeah.
And it was like last year, I mean, yeah, they won on 4th and 18 pass interference calls and blocked field goals. Like they're not that different of a team. I'd say the one difference this year is I think the reason why the numbers are better is they beat up on some bad teams. And so they beat up on the Raiders, the Commanders. They had a little stretch. And it coincided with the return of Rashee Rice. And they've struggled a little bit more against, especially defensively, I think they struggled more against some of the good teams. So I don't think it's a far way away from last year. But that's like the nature of football. That's why we come out here and do this thing.
All right, that's enough of that, Steve. It's come to my attention that only 40% of people watching this are actually subscribed. So hit the subscribe button. It helps the channel a ton, and we appreciate it hugely. Now back to Steve.
We'll talk about that more later, but what are your thoughts on Colin's overall take here?
Well, the thing is, I don't even think Josh Allen has been in the same ballpark as last year's Josh Allen. Like, I don't think either of those guys are playing as well as Josh Allen did last year.
That's true.
I
don't think anybody is.
No, right. But if you are, you're not zooming in on those two. You're zooming in on like Matthew Stafford or, Darnold up until he plays the Rams or those types of things. It's an interesting thing, though, the Mahomes part of it specifically. How long do you let a guy go playing at a lower level than his peak before you say he's not playing as well as he used to anymore? Like how long a grace period does Mahomes has he earned by playing out of his mind for so long to begin his career before it's okay to bring up the idea, hey, you know what? He's actually not playing at that level anymore.
So I think it depends on what you're trying to define. I mean, the last 3 years, his production has been a far cry. So if you're just looking at production, output.
And that was always explained away by, hey, look at this receiving core. It's not what it used to be. There's no Tyreek Hill here. Yeah. He hasn't got all the full receiving core. Well, all of a sudden he has the full receiving core, and he's still not playing out of his mind.
Yeah, over the last few years, you would say, okay, you lose Tyreek Hill. And the first year without Tyreek Hill may have been Mahomes' best season. That was 2022 because he was doing it with lesser receivers, and the production did not take a drop off whatsoever. They go win the Super Bowl.
Right.
But then since that point, you have a little bit of Travis Kelce regression starting last year. And then, like Tyreek Hill over time, if you have that guy in your team, is going to make your stats better. So you've got stat production regression. And then over the last couple of years, it was usually explained away by, the left tackle's really inconsistent and the playmakers and Kadarius Toney's on our team. And now, like you're right, like last week, they had all of their receivers. We've been saying for a while, wait till they get Rice, Worthy, Hollywood Brown, Kelce, all on the field at the same time. Just wait.
And for like one game. And
Josh Simmons was back too.
Yeah, and for like a couple of games it worked, but it was against the Raiders and Washington's defense.
Yeah.
It's like, of course it worked against those.
Yeah. And so, I don't know. It depends on what you're trying to define.
I also don't think it's also, again, this is where you get the nuance, right? It's important to make the point that Mahomes is still playing well, just not the way he used to play, which was the best quarterback of all time. Not just, the best in the NFL, but like better than anybody's ever played the game before to start his career. And now it's like, he's not playing at that level.
Yeah.
He's still good.
But it's also
not that.
But then it's probably fair to say, okay, given the circumstances he was in, Hall of Fame Travis Kelce battling to be the best tight end of all time, Tyreek Hill, one of the best, I would say, deep threats, all-around offense elevators of all time. And so is it even fair to expect the same type of production without those guys? How much, just nuanced here, how much was the stuff that called him the greatest of all time during that beginning stretch dependent on those guys?
To me,
and
it
you
felt
don't have that. Like both things are true, but you have this combination of Andy Reid, Tyreek Hill, and Travis Kelce all in that ecosystem at the same time. That all led to that otherworldly production.
This is where I think that we are still, despite all the advanced numbers in the world, despite PFF grades, despite everything trying to quantify this stuff, we're still really bad at identifying when is a guy actually playing worse football and when is simply his supporting cast changed to the point where that's affecting his performance up or down, right?
Yeah.
So this feels like various points in Aaron Rodgers' career, right? Where Rodgers had similar. Okay, his start was later because, sitting behind Brett Favre for a while. But once he got in the starting lineup, it's like out of his mind football, more or less start to finish. Incredible run. This is the best anybody's ever done it. Nobody's ever played football to this level before. It's like you've never seen before. And then every now and again, you get a year in there with a 78 PFF grade where he's like good but not great, and the numbers, are slightly worse but not bad. And it's like, well, do we acknowledge that as a bad season, relatively speaking, for Aaron Rodgers? Or was that a year where like Jordy Nelson gets hurt and that's just literally the entire production change or the entire grade or performance change is explained by Jordy Nelson is no longer in the lineup, therefore Rodgers is taking a downturn? So I think we're bad still collectively at even identifying whether that's the thing or not. Is this quarterback actually playing any worse than he's played in the past, or is this simply a product of things outside of his control? Because you got games this year, particularly early in the season, where Mahomes was playing like playoff Mahomes, and he's like, I got to run every first down. If I don't scramble, we're not extending this drive. Like, I have to carry this team on my shoulders individually. And he was doing that, and it was working. But I think overall at this point, like half the year in, you're like, this is not a vintage year for Mahomes.
Well, that's honestly, I think the last 3 years haven't been vintage, but the difference has been, steps up his game in crunch time, both at the end of games and in the playoffs. That would be the one thing, and I think that's where Colin is onto something here. That would be the one thing that's a little bit different. Like the last couple weeks, Mahomes has had opportunities. If you look at all those charts when it comes to fourth quarter comebacks and opportunities at the end of games, Mahomes is at or near the top of almost all of those, right? It's always Brady and Mahomes and, the guys, and even more so, like when you're trying to figure out the GOAT discussion everybody always loves. Brady and Mahomes are always in this like slightly different stratosphere than, say, Peyton Manning or Aaron Rodgers or some of the others. But like the last couple of weeks here, Mahomes is thrown in a tie game interception a couple weeks ago, or in a comeback attempt interception against the Bills. Had an opportunity this past weekend against the Broncos, goes 3 and out. Those are opportunities that he usually comes through. And even last year and the year before, when his overall stats and production weren't great, even when he wasn't having his best game, you'd still say, well, found a way to do it at the end. And he's just not doing that as much. So I think that's where Colin's take is coming from. And there's some validity to that. There's also, like, the best quarterbacks don't always come through, right? That you just have, like, being the best quarterback in the league or whoever, like, you have failure too. Like, it doesn't mean you're perfect. Doesn't mean you literally are always the best at everything statistically or in comeback attempts.
All of them have this. Like, as you said, this year Josh Allen has not been like Josh Allen for a lot of the year. Every one of these guys has a stretch where they don't look like the best quarterback in the NFL. But I do think it is like Mahomes has this kind of sacred cow status where you can't say anything negative about him at all. Like, I think it's reasonable at this point to bring up the point that, would the Chiefs' offense be better if Mahomes was having one of his best seasons? Yeah. Like, he's missed a lot of shots there that have been there for the taking. I mean, even against a couple of weeks ago, there was one of those deep shots to Thornton that was there before. Like, he didn't hit the first one. He then hit the second one. You're like, okay, that's good. But, like, these are the plays that Mahomes used to make in the past and hasn't made now.
We'll talk more about the Chiefs, break this all down a little bit later. But Colin's going straight for Mahomes. What's all the problem? It's got to be all Mahomes.
Now we're going to have to get he's going to have a guest appearance by Nick Wright to counter the Mahomes slander.
Of course.
Nick can't let that stand.
Nick will take care of that.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end of the video.
Check the Mic is live Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, so be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss a video.
You heard the man. Subscribe.